Hello. It's very honored to have opportunity to give a talk about my research. And I'm a cultural anthropologist, and I wrote a book, The Cultural Anthropology of Korean Shamanism in 2018. But the today talk is not included in the book. So it was written long time ago, but uh, I hope you enjoy this particular topic, the relationship between myth and history. Uh, so the title of my talk is Shamanic Epics and Narrative Construction of Identity on Jeju Island, Korea. Purpose of my talk, um, I approach shamanic epics as oral tradition, and narrative pattern of oral epics serve as a mnemonic device, recalling historical events and makes meaningful connections to cultural experience of identity politics. This talk examines the way in which shamanic epics, Ponhyang Ponpuri, the origin stories of tutelary gods or village shrines, reflect and transmit the social history of Jeju Island, Korea, focusing on narrative construction of place and sense of identity. Firstly, I will illuminate the textual features that follow the narrative pattern or the cliche of oral epics. Next, regarding their narrative effect on the identity of Jeju people, I will explore how their textual features are active and dynamic to make a meaningful connections to the historical experience and cultural values. This map shows the location of Jeju Island. Originally, Jeju Island was an independent island state, Tamna, ruled by indigenous king and several princes who formed a federation of separate estates owned by their major clan group, Goyanggu. Along the Kuroshio current, Tamna shared a maritime tradition and the trade network with other island states and also southern China dynasties. After Tamna was annexed to the mainland dynastic state Korea in 1105, Jeju Island lost political autonomy and became a low-level local district, gun, at the southernmost frontier. Jeju has a continued military presence over the years until now. At the end of Pacific War, Japanese military set up Jeju as a front line in their defense against the American landing. Since the April 30 incident, Jeju became the front line of Cold War system. Okay, Jeju Islanders. Jeju Island was used as the place of political exiles, and it had almost 200 years of 출력금지령, the law-banning migration. And Jeju Island functioned as a military political frontier, and islanders developed as identity of exiles at the frontier. This geopolitical reality of remote frontier status of Jeju Island conflicts with the indigenous cosmology in which the island is believed as a sacred land of shrine gods. Jeju Island has maintained its cultural autonomy through transmission of shamanic epics, such as Ponhyang, Ponpuri. Ponhyang means origin village. Ponpuri means origin myth. Ponhyang Ponpuri, original myth of the laws of the land, reflect the oppositional structure of these two spatial imageries, a sacred land and a military and political frontier, and also epitomize the indigenous historical memory of political subjugation and cultural resistance. Ponhyang Ponpuri, Ponhyang holds the register of birth and death of people. So there's the ancestor and descendant relationship between the shrine deities and villagers embody the territorial bond of supernatural nationhood centered on the Tang shrine. Although the shamanic epics are composed of the life stories of shrine deities, the transformation during the time of their life course is in fact identified with the historical process of foundation, migration, and settlement of the village community and tribe. Thus, the mystical time of the shrine's establishment approximates the historical time of the initial formation of a village. So whenever priestly shaman recites the Ponhyang Ponpuri at the collective ceremony, the indigenous history of Cheju Island is recounted and transmitted. Ponhyang Ponpuri reveals the genealogical relationship among the shrine deities, which imply a spatial relationship among the shrines that constitute a single universe or community. The common motifs of epics is the founding of a mystical family and its division for generations and spatial diffusion all around the island. The male deities, the indigenous people, marry the female deities, the visitors carrying new civilization from the distant lands over the ocean. Their offspring, exiles, are abandoned at an early age by their parents, but later triumphantly return home. The epic story ends with the death of parents' deities and the establishment of a new social order by the offspring deities, who are indeed the heroic protagonists of shamanic epics. The fate of the protagonist becomes congruent with the historical identity of participating Cheju people as the exiles and original ruler of sacred ancestral land. Ponhyang Ponpuri of Songtang Shrine. The shrine deities of Songtang village is the founding ancestors and the genealogy of shrine deities in the northern region of Cheju. The mystical family of father Sochongguk, mother Paekchu, and the son Songguk-sang, from whom 18 sons, 28 daughters, and 378 grandchildren were born and became shrine deities all around the island. These numbers, all of them ending with the number 8, are a mystical expression of Cheju society as a single genealogy society. At the Songtang village, Halmang Paekchu is called as Paekchu, together with a son named Kum, which indicates literally the Kim clan. This kind of naming local tutelary deity stems from the fact that the Kim clan is the dominant social group in the village. In the ritual context, the Kim clan exercises social and religious power as the highest rank client, Sangdanggol, in the worshippers community. There are 6 episodes of Songgang Ponhyang Ponpuri. Initial migration of Halmang Paekchu from Seoul or southern China, and her marriage to the Cheju native Sochongguk, hunter living in the cave, and the request of farming. Number 2, Paekchu, Paekchu's divorce from her giant, voracious meat-eating husband, who moves to a new village, Lower Songda. So Paekchu remains in the original village, higher Upper Songda. The first exile of their 7-year-old son, Songguk-sang, is cast out to sea in the iron box, disrespecting his father. Songguk-sang's marriage to a princess from a sea kingdom, and the second exile in the iron box due to his voracity for meat. His military success in the southern land of Heavenly Sun, Gangnam Cheonjago, and the triumphant return to Cheju Island to exact revenge against her parents. After death of his parents, the deification of Songguk-sang as the new ruler of Mount Halla and the establishment of village shrines all places on Jeju Island. If the marriage of Socheongguk and Paekchu indicates the founding of the village society through a coalition of the original hunters and meat eaters and the newcomer farmers and rice eaters, their divorce means the village division and population migration. The birth of their sons, including Seongguk-sung, sometimes Seongguk-sung changed his name, Mungguk-sung, indicates the historical development of Jeju society. The family stripe typified in the relationship between the father Seongnae and the son Seongguk-sung suggests the historical conflict between the indigenous people and the newcomers from the mainland. However, the son Seongguk-sung's triumphant return and consequential death of his parents justifies the establishment of a new political rule by the new generation on Jeju Island. This story pattern of exile and triumphant return of the Seongguk-sung is the common, consistent element in the most of Ponhyang Ponpuri on Jeju Island. It acts as a cliché, the mnemonic device that aids in recalling, representing, the transmitting culturally significant historical details to the next generations. Sherry Ottener's notion of cultural schemas is useful for the understanding of the cultural forces of shamanic epics in shaping the indigenous identity and history of Jeju Island. The cultural schemas mean the cultural pattern of action or cultural dramas that recur over time. The cliché of exile and return in the shamanic epic functions as a cultural schema in shaping the identity and history of Jeju people as the exiles at the frontier. Two events of Seongguk-sung's exile explain how Jeju people perceive the historical reality. The first cause of his abandonment and exile was the childish act of plucking father's beard. The abandonment that followed his transgression predestined him for heroic adventure. The second cause of the son Seongguk-sung's exile is related to his voracious appetite for food. His voracity is trait shared with most of shrine gods in the Jeju Shamanic epics. Both the son and his father, Seongnae, are giant men who eat 9 jars of soup and 9 jars of rice and are very fond of meat. Unfortunately, their great appetite was never satisfied in reality. Due to their superhuman voracity, Seongnae was divorced by Paekchu, the rice eater, and the son was exiled in the iron box by his father-in-law, the king of the Sea Kingdom. When the son Seongguk-sung returned to Jeju, settled down at the village shrines, he demanded from the worshippers a sacrifice of a whole roast pig for ceremony, which is called the Dotje ceremony. Narrative effect of epic. The destiny of epic figure Seongguk-sung is identified with the historical fate of Jeju people. The sun god's voracious appetite for food bespeaks the great desire for self-sufficiency and defiance of Jeju people, rather than an easy compliance with a given reality. His insatiable hunger implies a desire for power and liberation from political subjugation of people, Jeju people as an exile at the frontier. This desire for power is well portrayed in Seongguk-sung's warrior character. He was an invincible warrior. His physical prowess and warrior character were proved in his military triumphs by killing of multi-headed monster generals in warfare at the Gangnam Cheongjagu. However, as the son Seongguk-sung was exiled twice because of his voracity, his extraordinary military feats determined his fate as an exile. This treasure hero is feared for his extraordinary character. and thus exiled at an early age. Next, spiritual colonization and narrative resistance. During the Joseon dynasty, governors of Jeju Island dispatched from the central government used iconoclastic measures to effectively implement the Confucian dominant religious policy. They degraded local shamanism as the barbaric superstition of stupid and unenlightened folk. They demolished the shamanic shrines and forced the priestly shamans to become farmers. Instead, they replaced them customs with the Confucian ancestor worship and nature worship. Their goal lies in the consolidation of the central state's hegemony over local power and spiritual colonization. Resisting this spiritual colonization, the Cheju people expressed a sense of cultural identity through narrative means in the epics and legends. In the legends of the governors, the supernatural lordship of shrine deities is reclaimed and the governors are finally defeated. The famous story is about the governor Lee Young-sang. He came to Jeju Island in 1702, governed the island for only 2 years, but he made a really great civilization measure, and it has succeeded. It has been very successful. So the popular memory of Governor Lee Young-sang and his civilization policy was still remembered and recited in the shamanic shrine myth. He abolished 129 shamanic shrines and 4 Buddhist temples. His iconoclastic measures is remembered in popular stories as 500 shamanic shrines and 500 Buddhist temples were destroyed. It's exaggeration. He ordered the burning of all privately possessed ritual paraphernalia from Jeju shamans, and he imposed a special tax on the shamans, and he forced more than 400 shamans back to farming. What he called the civilizing measure was accomplished within a year. Okay, this he recorded pictorially what he has done with this iconoclastic policy and also Confucianization of Jeju Island. You can see Gompo Beun. I don't know how to translate, but it shows the Chinese character. And it shows the whole Jeju Island. It shows that these 2 events. One event is the demolishing of shamanic shrines and the Buddhist temples, just below the mountain Halmang. But at the seaside port, the Gwandokjeong, it's the administrative office, and 300 officers gathered together, and they bowed toward the central city, Ponhyang, as an expression of their gratitude for the king's grace. And this is a very interesting picture. Governor Lee's Confucian reformation and re-edification. In addition to demolition of shamanic shrines, Governor Lee replaced the local folk festivals with the government officiated new Confucian ceremonies for reverence of the mountain deity, Sancheonje. In addition, Governor Lee petitioned to central government that Mount Hala should be celebrated as a sacred mountain at a national ceremony. This kind of domestication of indigenous deities and nature, original nature, was involved in a much deeper strategic exercise, subjugation of magical power of sacred mountain to the man-made Confucian state. However, the popular interpretation of the Governor Lee's accomplishments shows the subversive counter-discourse, in which the shrine gods will finally enlist in the imaginative realm of oral traditions. The legend in Kimyeong village represents the typical story of Governor Lee's legends as follows. Governor Lee destroyed 500 Tang shrines and 500 temples, but also rebuilt the old ruined graves. He also repelled the serpent living in the cave at Kimyeong village. After he was about to leave for the mainland, but his ship could not leave soon. At night, an old gentleman with a long white beard appeared in his dream and promised to suppress the wind so that Governor Lee would leave next morning. After his death, Governor Lee's tomb was spread with the serpent, which revived in the revenge. Such a fictional victory attests the Cheju people's consistent faith in the shrine deities and also their redemptive will to resist against spiritual colonization and political consolidation by the mainland state power. The shrine deity of Serpent Cave at Kimyeong village is exactly identical with Gyeonegitto and Seong, who are the sun gods of Halmang, Paekchu, and Socheongguk. Actually, this Seong is Gyeonegitto, and it's a huge serpent god. Anyway, it's all identical. The legacy of shamanic faith and spiritual solidarity among the shrine gods against the external forces has continued intact even in modern times. Mythical message functions as a perspective shifter to reconstitute the meaning of social realities. Modern legend of shrine gods. During the April 3rd incident of 1948, the new legend related historical experience of April 3rd incident of 1948 proves the persistence of shamanic faith in shrine deities. It also proves the empowering effect of the shamanic epic itself for the sake of survival. Okay, it shows the scene of April 3rd incident. The April 3rd incident occurred during the American military occupation, and these armed civilians, mountain guerrillas, do not have enough weapons, and but these military forces of American occupational government was huge, and so there are huge mass deaths and massacre and social destruction. So most of the mountains villages were burned down and people were killed, and 30,000 people were killed. It shows all the places on Jeju Island were influenced by this massacre and social destruction. This purple dot, this indicates the Songtang village. You can see this Songtang village was the least damaged village. And it shows the Jeju 4.3 Peace Memorial Park, commemorating 60th anniversary. Okay, inside you can see the victims of this massacre and social destructions recognized as honorable spirits, and their names and their tablets are placed in this shrine. Okay, shamans in Cheju Island, shamans are very important, maybe dominant religious figures who can officiate this very important public commemorative ritual at the 60th anniversary of Jeju's Hasan incident. And the Bukchon village in 2003, the almost 443 victims who were killed in 2 days in the village, at the school, and farming fields. They are all commemorated, and I'm here in the picture. New legend of Songtang shrines, Halmang Paekchu. Songtang village was one of the mountainous villages that survived from total destruction. A regimental force to suppress guerrillas was stationed in this village. And interestingly enough, there were no major damage on the village. And the people, Songtang people, explain it as the divine protection of the shrine deity, Halmang Paekchu. You can see Halmang Paekchu appeared in the dream of police chief. And this Halmang Paekchu, dressed in a white traditional skirt, and she was sitting on the shrine ground. And this police chief was not a Jeju native, so he consulted with a village shaman, and the shaman interpreted his dream. With the skirt, Halmang Paekchu was protecting the village and villagers from the attack of mountain guerrillas, and also the counterinsurgency suppressive forces by covering them with her skirt. Afterwards, the police chief permitted villagers to worship the grandmother, Paekchu Halmang, and also they rebuilt the shrine house. So it shows the ritual at Songtang Ponhyang. This slide is my fieldwork in January 1990. And now in 2018, they still have this regular shamanic ritual at the shrine. Okay, the tablet of Paekchu Halmang, Paekchu Halmang Chini, in her shrine is placed in a small house, stone house. The shrine clients attending a New Year greeting ceremony, and these shrine deities who are born in the village or in the foreign countries, their birth records and the death records are all is held by this shamanic goddess. So they have to visit and attend at this New Year greeting ceremony. And this is their ritual duty. Conclusion. On Jeju Island, the shamanic epics and legends are structured by pairs of tragic conflicts between the rebellious sons and their parents, between the indigenous deities and foreign-born deities, and between shrine gods and governors. The perception of tragic conflicts as being prevalent among the epic figures has produced the indigenous consciousness of Jeju people as tragedy. This tragic sense of history emerging in the shamanic epics legends articulates the rhetoric about the place and identity of Jeju people as tragic heroes and frontier exiles. Ponhyang Ponpuri of Songtang attests such a consistent redemptive vision for cultural and political autonomy. While interpreting meaning of the Ponpuri, Cheju people recreated it as a culture of resistance and autonomy by means of mythic shrine deities' victory over the outside forces. By transforming every bit of social and historical experience into oral narratives, the Jeju people represent their past and present in mythical and cosmological terms. The shamanic epics, Ponhyang Ponpuri, and oral traditions effectively interlace the indigenous cosmology of ancestral land with the social history of Jeju Island.